So this is probably the most important context. What I'm trying to do is, many people, when they go through this whole journey of becoming a BA or kind of learning about what a BA does, they kind of get completely lost once they are out of the training course. This whole thing I've designed in a way so that you can understand the things. See, we are having multiple challenges here. We don't have to just work as a BA. We have to clear the interview and we have to talk to the vendors even before that. Talking to vendors is relatively easy. They don't have too much technical capabilities, so they can't really judge whether you really have, whether you can, whether you have the knowledge or not. But sitting in front of the interviewer and talking to him requires considerable skill. Quite frankly, we believe that cracking an interview is the biggest challenge. Doing the job is also one of the smaller challenges. We think that anybody, pretty much can handle the job. But I would say biggest challenge is really cracking the interview. Now, when a person is in front of the interviewer, he has 30 seconds, 30 minutes, or 1 hour at most to really portray his skills. So many of the things that I will talk is from being able to do in the interview perspective, being able to conduct in the interview properly perspective. Okay, so that is one very important thing, that kind of everything that we do, we want to make sure that you can do the job right and you can crack the interview. Versus really understanding and knowing the BA and everything really well. So let's say we start talking about systems. We will not be ever be you when you, even after 5 or 6 years of working as a BA, you will not be really working in systems that much. I mean, you don't have to really worry about that, but we have to understand that enough so that we can talk in the interview, and we have to understand that enough that we can do the job. So this perspective is kind of very important thing. That's where I come into picture. I really think all the things that I'm telling you, they are on Google. You can always find that on Google. But on Google, apart from what I'm about to tell you, there are at least 100 times more material. And that's where the issue lies. I think Google is in general very good when you have a specific question. How to fix this problem in the dishwasher? What is pestle technique? Okay, you can get an overview. What is the Medicaid law? What is the Obamacare law? But how Obamacare implementation should affect, or Obamacare law will affect our IT systems, is kind of something that you cannot never find on Google. And how basically should the Obamacare be taken care of, or how it should be implemented in the project? What are the various techniques? All these things will basically confuse you. If you go to Google to find out what is SDLC, I'm 100% sure you'll get so much confused that you'll be surprised. In my course, you'll understand the common sense perspective of SDLC. Then we call it, and then I'm going to put it in 2 different bottles. I will tell you the wine, how the wine works, and then I'll put it in 2 bottles, rough and agile. All other extreme, waterfall, this, that, they're all basically same wine in the different bottle. Many people put a lot of effort in, telling you all the difference between different kind of methodologies, different kind of software development life cycles and all that stuff. That will not be our goal. This is one area where I'm going to be totally different from others. They will be kind of spending a lot of time in ensuring that you understand there are 30 different kinds of testings. Like, for example, they'll tell you there are 30 different kinds of testings. There are 30 types of things. But actually, I think only 2 matter the most. When you go to Google, you search for, you get all 30 plus another 100. And really 2 or 3 are of the most important things, like white box testing and black box testing. You don't have to worry about alpha testing, beta testing, this and that. They don't hit you every day. Nobody really cares about that. Similarly, if you want to say, look, what is test planning? You will get a lot of material on the net. So I would say understanding the concepts and being able to do the job is going to be a very important perspective that's going to come handy here. That's really important. When we are so one of the first perspectives is SDLC. Anything that you do, any BA or any QA, any IT job that you do, you have to understand SDLC. I won't get surprised if there are 100 courses of IT in this country and all 100 courses. I'm going to talk about it. Sure, good. Yeah, I was just talking about this software development life cycle. So yeah, so I guess, kind of you have no IT background whatsoever. That's fine. That's an assumption. So software development lifecycle is so this whole thing is all about overviews, so that when we go into SDLC details, we can understand it. So I call these things as perspectives. The whole thing is when you're understanding any concept down the line, you have to understand it from this perspective. You have to understand, keep SDLC in mind. What is SDLC at a high level is, what when we conceive a project, when a project is conceived in a company, then it's not like, let's say we want to get Microsoft Word and we just simply install it. It's a pretty big deal. It's a typically considered as a $2-3 million project, $1 million project. I just got a one person place in a claims management system project where they are getting a new claims management system. It's an insurance company, very big and known insurance company. You can't imagine how much money they have spent on the insurance management, the claims management system. $1 billion they've already spent on that. So when they, yes, so when they conceive a project, the first thing is they plan. Okay, planning for what? Planning for how many developers will we need, how many business analysts we will need, how many testers we will need, when should we do what. Then they scope it out, what all we will do, what all we will achieve in this project. Are we going to overhaul the entire thing, the entire company? Obviously not. That is not an option. They typically work within a scope. When you get into the SDLC details, pay special heed to the scope management, pay special heed to the project conception, how they go through that. Typically you will not be part of project conception. It will be told again in the SDLC video, but I want to make sure you understand that you as a business analyst work on requirement gathering portion. This one, business requirement gathering. Then you work on functional requirement specification, you work on functional design. I put all that in red. Planning is a little bit that you kind of that you're also concerned with a little bit. Okay, but typically when you will go in, you would be indulged very less in planning, but more in business requirement gathering, FRS, and functional design, simply because you guys are pretty much freshers. I will not put you in like really high-fi projects where they want a lot of talent from requirements gathering standpoint. There are other phases too: technical design and actual development, like the coding part, which
We don't do that, right?
we never do that as BA. But I want to make sure you understand the SDLC. Testing, then testing happens. Then happens UAT, training, production rollout. All these things you will come to know a little later. But if you have got the gist of it, basically the software development projects are conceived in phases. Okay, first phase is the plan. Second one is requirement gathering. Third one is specifications. Then after that technical part, the actual development. Then after that, by and large, this blue portion, by and large testing happens. Then user acceptance and training happens. Then this production rollout and post-production support. All these things happen. Okay, we'll talk about in detail what these words mean in the SDLC. This thing, many people, when they're doing SDLC, they forget the rest. I want to make sure you guys understand the entire context in one place. This is another thing. This is RUP. This is the same, as I said, wine in a different bottle. It's RUP. All these business modeling requirements, analysis and design, implementation, test, deployment, they sound different, but they are familiar. They sound familiar, but they're just verbiage is different. This is essentially what any software project have to have. They have to do some kind of modeling, some kind of project modeling, some kind of scoping. Then they do requirement gathering. Then they do analysis and design. Then they do actual development, testing, and then deployment.
The first three.
Yes. Inception, elaboration, and construction and transition. RUP just calls it by different names, right? It says that inception is almost equal to business modeling. Elaboration is also equal to business modeling. Elaboration is equal to requirement. Analysis and design is equal to elaboration. You will be working on basically elaboration phase, as if you are talking about RUP terminology. Implementation, you won't be concerned with implementation. Testing, you'll be concerned with testing a little bit. Deployment happens at transition phase. So interesting point is this. I like this diagram somehow. This diagram has actually caught the gist of what actually happens in the project. That's why I show it here. Otherwise, I'm not a person who will ever show you 23 diagrams for the same thing. It is really catching the gist. It says that in the previous one, if you notice, it says business requirement gathering over. Now the next one starts. In the real world, it doesn't happen like this. Little bit of everything keeps on going. Just as the requirement gathering is going on, they start doing little bit of construction, little bit of development, little bit of testing also starts doing. It doesn't mean the tester is never there and doesn't test anything. Something developer makes, he can test it. Okay, so this diagram really catches the gist of what happens in a project, and keep this just in mind. Although whole idea is to understand SDLC in a nutshell. Rational unified process is what I was talking about, RUP. Some people call it RUP. There are other methodologies. One is waterfall, then there are few others, agile. Waterfall, the one that I showed you, is pretty much waterfall. This one is pretty much waterfall. Agile is different set of words, different color of the bottle, that's it, but the wine is exactly same things happen within that. It is a little different. There is a little difference also. It's not that it's completely same also, but you will be able to get by. You don't have to worry. Remember, important perspective. We have to learn it from clearing the interview perspective and also being able to do our job perspective. For a person who's kind of doing PhD in SDLC, there's a huge difference between them. But we are not that. We just have to do the work, really. So from that perspective, clearing the interview becomes important because then the verbiage has to be used. Correct verbiage. In Agile, things are called user story, use cases. We'll get into that once you get into Agile. But they're essentially the same wine, just a different bottle, just different label. Within this, I've written a few buzzwords here. I have seen people who have undergone the entire BA training, 30 days of BA training, grueling BA training. They've never heard of these words. Code freeze. They don't know what is code freeze. Well, at some point of time, a code freeze occurs here. We have to stop development. Otherwise, we will be testing, let's say we start testing and we keep on developing also, then what we are testing is wrong. We didn't test the entire finished product. It's a simple common sense. So code freeze is something that no implementation of software can ever live without. Scope. I've met with so many people and asked them what is scope in a project. They don't know what is a scope. They've never heard of the word. They've heard of the English word scope. I will talk in detail about what scope is. And scope is something that you hear in every interview, in every discussion, in everyday project thing. How can a teacher or a trainer miss talking about scope? Because as a BA, the only thing that you do is scope management. You have to make sure we promised this, we got $20 million. Obviously, if we promise this and we say that okay, it's going to cost $20 million, I cannot do this. Then it will cost $30 million and I don't have that money. So you as a BA, as a senior BA, typically do a lot of scope management. And that's pretty much what you do. Developer will come back and say, this is out of scope, guy. Dude, what are you promising? I can't do this thing. In scope, out of scope is an everyday discussion. And I'm very surprised, not many people talk about it. That's one thing. Deliverable, documents are deliverable. I've asked some people, what is a deliverable? What is an artifact? This is my question when someone says he has taken some training. When you don't, deliverable is what we call it. We don't call it documents. What's going to be my deliverable? That's what we say every day. Yeah, deliverable means, well, it's an English word. Also, it has some kind of generic keyword kind of connotation to it, software connotation to it. It means like something that we deliver. So for us, the deliverable is we have to produce a business requirement document, a functional requirement specifications document. So we'll talk about these documents in detail. I just want to make sure by the time my students reach the BRD and all that stuff, they kind of forget what they were talking about. Where in the big picture all this lies. So these things are going to construct big picture. So this is the first big picture for you. This is the second one. Kind of this goes on every day. That's why I talk about it. This is, I would say, the third big picture that I want each single person, student of mine to know. Many a time you'll be surprised you don't know this thing. Where does the BA stand? Let me just explain it briefly. What I'm trying to say is there is a full video on this context diagram. In general, this context diagram is like we want to get just the high level understanding so that we can jump into the course. That's the whole idea about it. You should know what you're doing. Where does it fall? That's why I created these context diagrams. I call these context diagrams or perspective diagrams. Let's say claims management system. You're talking about a claim. So these clients and contacts, or we're talking about sales system. I'm going to talk about two systems typically, sales and claims, and third one is service. So these are clients and contacts, doctors, nurses. That's what the claim management system has to deal with, right? Doctor will call, say, what happened to my claim? What's going on? Or he will submit the claim. or members can call. The person, like the members means like the common people, who have insurance, they can call, right? Everyday people. So these are clients and contacts. Second one is service representatives, sales representative, marketing representatives, or claims representative. All these are people who use a system to help these guys. When you call Southwest, he uses a sales system to book your ticket when you call them. Okay, when you call, let's say AT&T, say my bill is having problem, so they look at your bill. Where do they look at your bill? They see it in a system. They open it in your in their computer, right? So this line says above this is outside the company and below this is inside the company. They have supervisors and low-level managers. Then they have VPs and directors. There's a full hierarchy of the business operation for the sales team, for the claims management team. There is a team, business team. When there were no IT, just always think about that. When there was no IT, no nothing, no computers were there, still they were managing claims. Still they were processing claims. They had a full hierarchy of people working like that. They had claim processors, they had claim management people, then they had their managers, then they had their vice presidents. Everybody was there. So that hierarchy, I'm calling it essentially as business people or business operational team in my context. But typically you will hear a lot of times business. Business wants this. Business wants that. That means that within the IT team, we are saying business wants a feature like claim should be automatically processed. Like that we talk a lot. So this context we have to remember very importantly. Within these people, they will identify some people who would be talking to you as a business analyst who will be gathering requirement. To go through the entire SDLC, there are a lot of people: project manager, business analyst, developers, testers, application administrators. Please understand this in this context again. We need business analysts for these red ones. For these green ones, we need developers. For these blue ones, we need testers. For these gray ones, we need some customer. They get the thing, but actually we as an IT team need to deliver that. So developers again are needed, and then there are software change management people. So all this is the IT team, and this is the extended help that you get from various people who are kind of common across all systems. So let's say there are 25 projects going on. One is of SAP, second one is of Informatica, third one is of Siebel, fourth one is of claims management system, fifth one is of facets. The hardware administrators will be same for that. Let's say the laptops don't work. That's kind of very easy to understand. Sometimes the database administrators are also same. Network administrators, if let's say user says I can't log into the application, and if it is a network issue, let's say, then network administrator will come into picture. The developer of Siebel, the developer of SAP, developer of this guy will not come into a picture. That's what I'm trying to say. So these teams are conceived as part of your project. You as a BA will day in and day out work with project manager and developers and testers within your team. Typically for all these technical issues, developer will talk to them. It's kind of a technical thing. So developer will talk to them and make sure all these get resolved. For example, still, like let's say you're having a claims management system. It has to talk to your network. So someone has to do something. So the developers will handle all that. You as a BA don't have to bother about that. I don't anticipate you talking to them. You as this position PM/BA, this position is a little bit scientifically placed. None of other positions are scientifically placed, just these two are. You talk to SMEs between the business groups. So let's say there are 100 sales reps. Within them they'll say, this guy, they will appoint one guy, say this project, we need to make sure it is a success. We want to get the best system that we can. We are spending $10 million. Okay, let's make sure, we give him the requirement properly what we need. So who knows what we all do? Out of 100 people, who knows everything that we do? Among 100 people, there could be some people who just talk to clients. There could be some people who just make demos. There could be some people who are just making collateral for the sales calls. There could be some people who are just doing, let's say, billing. There are some people who are just doing order management. There could be some people who are just know about pricing of the products. So they will appoint one or two people who we are calling as SME in this context, and they are the ones who interact with you as a BA and give you the requirements. It's kind of in direct contrast with what Google says. Google says BA talks to clients. Half of my students, when I interview them the first, and they say, so as a BA, I will be talking to the clients. No, you talk to SMEs.
What is, I'm sorry, I am.
Yeah. SME means subject matter expert. BA means business analyst. So business analyst talks to SMEs and gathers the requirements from SMEs, then gives it to developers, these developers. This is the most important context. That's exactly what I explained you when we met the first time what a BA does. That whole thing is coming from this diagram only. That's what a BA does. He's part of the IT team, and he talks to the SMEs from the sales world. SMEs are nothing but another sales rep or sales manager, but who knows about not only about the sales of his own products, but also other products which are sold by the company, which are within the scope of this company, this thing. For example, talking about Abbott Labs, they have a hospital division, they have a pharmaceutical division, they have this thing. So when they're implementing a system, they're not trying to implement for everybody. Typically their systems will be within one department and within related to just few products. So they will appoint the SME who knows about only those products, who knows enough and can spare enough time. So they kind of do all these project allocations as part of the SDLC planning phase. How much time will be needed from the SME, from the BA? All this is done at that point. Okay. Again, this context is one of the most important contexts. Don't get surprised if you get if half of the class gets confused by the time we end this course, not by the time we are in the middle. What happens is they start to forget certain things. I can tell you, BA doesn't enter data. I ask a question from people. So let's say someone calls and he places a service request. So what if, let's say, service representative is not able to enter the service request? What will he do? He will call BA. BA will enter. BA never enters. BA never enters. So let's understand the SDLC context a little bit more here. Let's say the project is conceived to start from 1st January 2012 to December 31st, 2012. BA will be hired from, let's say, February for requirement gathering, from February, March, April to May. Most of the BAs will be there. Out of 10 BAs, 7 will be let go somewhere around testing. 2 or 3 will be kept throughout the SDLC. That's what the typical thing is. BAs are all gone by the time the system goes in production. Once the system goes into production, before that users never use it because it's being created. It's not there yet. It's not been deployed. Once it gets deployed, then only users start to use it. So when users start to use it, they enter service requests or sales or whatever they are using it, or claims, or it starts doing all that. BA is not even around. He's gone forever. He's gone for good. Right? Some 1 or 2 BAs would be remaining there. Let's say service request person is not able to enter. They are facing this issue. They will conceive it as a new project. They'll tell BA, hey, this is the problem, and then he will conceive it as a new project and then kind of start another SDLC. Or sometimes the fix could be really simple. He will tell the developer to fix it right away. But that's really like maybe within 1 day things are getting done. But BA will never enter SR. He never uses the system. He's not the user of the system. Mercedes designer, as part of designing work, he sometimes drives it to test. He sometimes do so many things, but he's not the user of Mercedes. It's for people, right? Many people, when you would meet someone who has taken a regular training, he will not be knowing these things. He will be knowing a lot about SDLC. What happens after that? But they will not know this thing. So this is one thing, really, this perspective has to become clear. Where do you lie? And these are, I put it in one single frame, but they actually is a three-dimensional thing. Sales reps have been doing their business. Above this red one, above this is business. They have been doing it for the last 50-60 years, and they'll keep on doing it for 60 years. You are called in for 1 year just to help them design, basically give them a system, help them design a system, and then give them a system which they will use for the next 60 years. They have been doing the business for many years. So this whole thing, they were always there. You are the one who has just come in for 1 year to help them out. This context is extremely important in understanding many of the things. This is another very interesting point. Many of the time, many of my students, when they're going through something, they don't know where the things lie. This diagram helps them understand somewhat what I want to say. For example, let's say you hear about Medicaid. We all know about Medicaid a little bit, Medicare a little bit. We all know about Obamacare a little bit. All these things are I'm just putting it all in the cloud. Business ideas, business strategies, business concepts, business discussions, business news, any laws you hear. Our knowledge, that knowledge of ours is extremely useful for success as a BA. I'm definitely keeping that fact in mind. But that does not directly make you a BA. You have to know something as part of this course which will make you actually utilize that knowledge as part of your BA duties. For example, I have asked you a question regarding shirt, whether S, M, L, W, if there are 4 shirts. So any of the things that you kind of come up with, like for example, we talked about out of small, medium, large, and extra large shirts, if medium are selling more, they need to order medium more, right? So this is a business idea. It makes perfect sense to all of us. How will it help you in BA work? Somewhere you have to start, you will be gathering the requirements for the system. There's a little bit layer, this yellow layer in between, which is what kind of is the missing link between what you know and what you will be doing as a BA. That is process, business process. Yes, Mr. So this business process is when the CIOs or CEOs or CEOs, when they think of, let's say, something like for example, small medium thing, so they will think, okay, the process will be every day they'll count how many are sold of what. Then they will tell the supply chain management department, hey, tell the supplier this shirt, this thing as this. So this whole flow is business process to me. In this case, it becomes a little less clear. I'm going to give you another example where the process is extremely evident. For example, when you call for customer service, the process is customer calls. I'm talking from Bank of America perspective. IVR greets him. IVR gives him, there are 5 options, right? IVR gives him 5 or 6 options. Press 1 for this, press 2 for this. Customer presses 1, this flow. Customer presses 2, third, second flow. Customer says, right? We can understand this flow chart. That flow chart or the business process is what the missing link between all your business ideas and all your business knowledge and the IT systems. Once you can think in terms of what processes this Medicaid be part of. For example, you know about Medicare. I have seen so many people in my class who know Medicare more than I would ever know, actually, because they were Medicare experts, they were insurance experts. I don't know anything about insurance. But Medicare knowledge will be extremely useful. We have to design systems for Medicare, but there's a missing link. The missing link is business process. You have to understand the business process really well. For example, Medicare is when the claim is submitted or as it's part of the claim submission process, then based on whether it's a Medicare patient, certain flows occur. Knowledge of those flows really step by step in an extremely granular manner is what will come handy in relating your business knowledge to the requirements and to the systems, right? Good news is we know systems too. Gmail, Facebook. For example, you know Facebook. In Facebook, it's a very complex system, quite frankly. I won't get surprised if they tell me that they spent billions of dollars on this system. I won't get surprised. If they're making $1 billion system in a claim submission company, then I won't get surprised if they spent billions of dollars on that system. I won't get surprised. It's definitely there. So we know about systems too. We know about system features, functionalities. For example, in newsfeed can be hidden. This is a feature. Hidden from friends of friends. These are all features. We understand many features also. How do you relate it to the business ideas? They always conceive some kind of a layer in between business process. That business process is the missing link and business requirement. So business, which kind of helps you understand, link between the business ideas that you have and the features that you can vision. For example, in Gmail, someone says, well, you know what, is it possible that, I can create a group of contacts and then I just write the name of the group and then I can send an email to that group every time. I don't have to type all the names. We know this functionality is there. This feature is there, right? And we know, but we also know some business ideas around it. We are trying to make user-friendly, we are making it right. But somewhere in between, there's a process. That process is where we need to that process is a missing link between these two different kinds of ideas. I'm just trying to make sure when you have your knowledge, you need to classify it into 3 groups, whether it is business related, process related, or whether it is systems related. Okay. There is another 4th which doesn't concern you at all, technicalities. Whether it is made in Java, whether it is made in C++, whether it is made in .NET, What technology does Facebook use? Doesn't concern you as a user, shouldn't concern you as a BA. You won't be able to make, you will be able to very easily make a call, where should I put it, by and large. This will help in understanding the concepts. I have seen multiple business analyst trainings. People will get confused somewhere in between. Why am I doing this Medicare? Why are you telling everything about Medicare? Medicare, you're explaining 20 slides on Medicare. Why am I learning all this? Dude, you're learning the business idea. Eventually, we'll identify the processes this Medicare word hits, and then those processes are implemented in the system. These processes are implemented in the system. System caters to a business process. The typical context is, we identify different boxes of the process. We can clearly remember, we all remember flowcharts. For every box we see whether we will make a system for it or it will be done manually. Customer calls, manual step. IVR greets him, system concept. So we will make this in system. That's what IVR system is all about. Sales rep picks the call. Then it gets routed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then he enters all these things. Then it gets routed. So we know all that. That is also systemic. Customer picks, sales rep picks the call. Will that be a manual step or that will be an automated step? Manual. So we will not automate it. Next step. Rep asks him a question. Sir, can I get your card number? Asking is manual. Entering is in a system. He enters it in a system, then queries and pulls the data. That's the process, right? And as you can see, I'm going really granular here, and that's exactly what we need to link our experience as a customer service rep, as a customer, dealing with the customer service representatives, and our forthcoming career as a business analyst. That's really the missing link, the business process. So when I say, okay, you know what, an order management, like we talked about, let's say, order number has to be automatically generated. That's a feature. Order number has to be automatically generated when a Southwest customer books a new ticket. We understand that part. We need to think in terms of processes. Or what are processes it is a part of? It is a part of one processes. It is a part of the booking process. We understand that. It's also a part of customer service process. When customer calls, using the booking number, we can identify his booking. And that's pretty much probably one of the most certain and easiest way. We understand that part. Once we understand the processes it is a part of and understand those processes in detail, you're pretty much filling that missing link between what you know about systems and what you know about business ideas and business concepts, right? That's what makes you a BA. If you can understand the business processes, remember, as a BA, you never create a new business process. Business process is something that business has already been doing. Remember our context? They've been doing the business for 60 years. They'll keep on doing the same way. You don't re-engineer. You don't engineer the new processes. That's actually the right term. Engineer the process. You simply just make that process automated using the system. Sometimes they will as part of the SDLC. Now variations are always there. I'm going to give you baseline knowledge pretty much. Variations are there. Sometimes they say, oh well, we are spending $1 million and we are getting all these things systems automated. Why don't we change the process a little bit? But that's their job. That's not your job. You will never be changing the process for them. You'll be only automating the system process, the business process for them. You'll be telling them what steps can be easily automated at a high level. Again, this particular thing that I talked about will happen at project conception, package selection, feasibility study time. What will be automated? You will be coming pretty much, according to me, later. Once you spend 4 or 5 years in IT industry, become a senior business analyst, maybe 2 for some of you, maybe just 1 or 2. Once you become a senior BA, you'll be asked to do the package selection and see what can be done. You'll be called as an IT consultant, IT management consultant, and that's when all these things, determination is made. What can be automated and how much cost is gonna be for that automation? What is the benefit? All that cost benefit analysis. First step, yellow step here, will be done. You'll be asked to do that only after a long time, like 2-3 years minimum. Once you spend time, but anyway, you should know. This is a really important context, which is kind of helps. Like I've always felt this is one of the most important contexts, and my students never get lost because they know exactly where. When I'm talking, let's say OT5, that's a rule in the transportation industry. We can have a long discussion about OT5. It's a rule in the transportation industry that when, like, let's say there is a bogie, let's say there is a retail Subway. Subway ordered beef from US Foods. US Food got it from some farm. When all that beef is getting transported from, let's say, one place to another, The bogie have to have this bogie, railway bogie have to have a sign. Whose sign it should be? Farmers, US Foods, which is a distribution company, or Subway. There are rules, set of rules, which are defined by the American Authority for Transportation. I don't know even the agency name completely. You can search for it. They basically determine, they've set a rules, and that's how it is determined. How does it hit you? It hits you when you're doing the business processes for kind of allocating a new car for the US Foods. Let's say US Foods ask, you're working in the, let's say, transportation industry. Then in that case, those people will call, right, US Foods to book a train bogie. That's when it will come into picture. You will ask them question, whose sign we should put. And then there is a law that you should also make an attempt to understand, what they're doing is right. So all that is where you can, so if we can understand the law easily, we need to understand business processes here. That's the missing link, and system functionalities will come really naturally to you in this case. Another important thing is how much of what we should learn. Remember, understanding requirement, interview, and all that stuff. When it comes to any business concept, okay, we'll be going through a lot of concepts: healthcare, airlines, sales, marketing. It is really important to know those so that we can undergo that discussion for whatever we are discussing at that point. But really, business is not much of a deal here. We have to really understand the entire business, the requirement gathering process and the systems and things like that. Even business processes are not much of a deal here. There are thousands and lakhs of and hundreds, millions of business processes we're going to talk about. We cannot probably get in the. That's exactly one of the things, problems my candidates face. When they know that they're going to work for a healthcare client, they will go through Medicaid, Medicare, ODC claim, this kind of claim, that claim, professional claim. You see, everything they'll do. And they'll get into total details. No, the level of detail that you need to get into these things is only related to the business process that you're automating. If in a company like insurance company, there are hundreds and hundreds of claims being processed, hundreds and hundreds of processes being run, and let's say they have a lot of work going on. Trust me, you'll be working on only one business process, and that's the business process you have to know really well. And good thing is, remember, perspective. After you in my video, there are things around this. Where will you fit it? Like, where will you fit the process owners? Like, for example, okay. So I call it, whenever you get a business requirement, you do a multi-pronged analysis. This is what that context is. Let me go over things one by one. You asked me quickly. That's why I kind of brought you to this one. We all understand this one. Okay. You kind of, what little bit thing here, BA doesn't do this thing. We need to understand the business process. The user is the one who, the way I say it is, let's say this project that you, let's say, are working is from 1st January to December 31st, 2012. They say that, okay, we'll do the claims management system. No problem. My home department needs me. Please, no problem. I'm recording everything, so don't worry at all. And if you need reinforcement, we'll do that. No problem. Okay. 1st January 2012 to December 20. The business, all these people were doing sales even before that system was there. So they would have already been doing this thing. I will call it for the last 50 years. पहले भी सेल करते थे, जब कंप्यूटर नहीं था तब भी करते थे. तो अपॉर्चुनिटी आती थी, कस्टमर का डेटा पेन पे लिखते थे, कुछ तो करते थे. That is their process. So process is independent of system. Okay. From 1st January they said, okay, we'll not stop using this thing. All our contacts, we'll put it in a system, and then we can all see who's contact, and then we'll share the contacts, and then blah blah blah. They have a number of things that they want to talk about with the BA. 1st January 2013 they will start using a system for doing the same thing that they were doing on pen and paper before. So from 1st January 2013 they will again carry on with their process using the system that you created between 1 year. This context can be easily compromised. If you need a reinforcement, I'll do it, no problem. But remember, BA comes, and when BA was doing this design work and everything, when this thing was going on, this whole SDLC was going on, BA came from, let's say, February 2012 to June 2012 to do his work, to gather the requirements and give it to the developer. Then pretty much he's not there in the picture. So many of my students, I'm sure you know that testers come in before, let's say testing is in July, August, or September, August. He will come in July and then he'll go, well, let's say October, November in this context. Many people don't know this thing. They think that many people don't know this thing. They get confused. So if you get confused, do ask me, not a problem. So business process is something which is always about interaction between the business people, that is sales reps and all that, and the external customers and all that, or within them. It's all about that. And that has been there for a long, long time. When the claim comes in, claim examiner looks at it, gives it to claim this guy, claim processor. Then claim processor gives to claim underwriter. Then if they think they have paid money before for this claim, they give it to collection. If they think they haven't paid money for this before and they think that some money has to be paid by patient, they give it to payment department. Hey, collect the payment from the patient. And if they think some other insurance company is in the picture and they should pay, then they give that claim file to that. That process was already there. Just think in terms of files in India. Clerks working, having a lot of files and coming, So all that is process. Okay, so all that is process. So process was before us too. When we were not, when the IT was not there, and when BA was not there, even when the system was not there. So the process is inherited. So what BA does is he follows a methodology or a process or a roadmap or waterfall or something, whatever you want to call it, to design that system in that 1 year for them. Right? The whole project is all about that, right? Making sense? Right? You probably came in for 4 months in between and did your testing work. When the testing was at its peak, let's say they need 10 testers at the peak, they will keep only 2 or 3 after the testing phase is over. 1 or 2 testers are typically still needed to do ongoing things. That's what they are. So even out of 10 BAs, they'll keep maybe 2 or 3 and then they'll let go of everybody else. Like that they work typically. Making sense? So this concept you already understand, SDLC, right? There are many things here. अपने project भी है. Code freeze क्या होता है? What is a code freeze? Do you know? जब system में testing में डालना है ना?
Code freeze.
Code freeze. Freeze.
Okay, the code will freeze it, right? So it will be the same code for everything. We can reuse it, but we can't change that code, right?
Yeah. The whole idea is after. Can we close the door, please? The whole idea is when the developers are doing this, they develop, then they are supposed to freeze the code and then testers are supposed to test that code and find bugs in it, right? That's the idea. Similarly, there's requirement freeze. Do you know what is traceability metrics?
Yes. The document which will give to the
Correct.
client.
Correct.
Which we have all the information, what we did, everything.
Correct.
Testing.
Yes, it is the core document of the testing. So I will never ever imagine a QA course which doesn't talk about traceability metrics.
What metrics?
Traceability metrics. It's written here. And all this is in my course. I'm not going through the entire course. This is an overview. Yes, ma'am.
This traceability matrix, do the business people will it? I mean, behavior people will do it. They will design it. This traceability matrix.
Answer is yes.
Okay.
Simple short answer is yes. And a bigger answer is when you go through SDLC, like you hear RUP, waterfall, this, that, I'm going to tell you, I already told big answer, I'm going to tell you a common sense point of view of doing the things, of creating a software. Common sense also says all these things should be done. Code should be frozen. If the code is not frozen, what they are testing? They will test, say there are 15 bugs by the time they have changed the code. So that has to be there. It's a common sense thing. Making sense? Big answer?
Yes.
So once we understand the common sense, this thing, I call it wine. You can put wine in any bottle. You can put wine in any bottle. You can put wine in a red bottle, it will look red. It will look like agile. Agile, RUP, extreme, everything are to me same. So there is one very interesting perspective. We have to do the submissions and talk to vendors. Work on the resume. Then we have to clear interviews. Then we have to do the job for first 3 weeks. Then we have to do the job for 3 months. Then we have to do the job ongoing. Making sense? When we are understanding things, we are trying to understand everything. I'll give you a common sense perspective as DLC, and I'll tell you, you don't need to know the differences other than clearing the interview. You don't need to know agile, user story and all that. Everywhere they'll follow the common sense. They will not say, oh, we're following agile, we will not fix this thing. Why not? If it's broken, they'll fix it. whether it's agile or not. So I'll tell you that perspective. That's how I teach SDLC. SDLC is one of the most important topics for any IT course because that is how the software is developed. You're part of a software development life cycle from January 1st to January. Remember that perspective. So right. So and traceability metrics. I always say whenever you're learning something, I'm going to tell you one more perspective. Whenever you're learning something, you understand the main keyword first. Like for example, traceability metrics. I'm going to tell you, this is my methodology of understanding any new concept in my class. What is a main concept? Traceability metrics. Main concept is 5 requirements are there, right? We will not do anything else. Then we want to make sure when the testers are doing the testing, project manager is up there. She wants to make sure everything is getting tested and they are not testing something else which does not need to be tested. So what they do is they assign a tester to every requirement. Making sense? So that's how they prove to themselves कि यार सारा काम हो रहा है. Checklist है, traceability metrics एक checklist है. Traceability, trace करने के लिए भी सब कुछ हो रहा है. Developer कर रहे हैं. Such a big mistake can happen. पूरा bridge बन गया, कोई बड़ा important part turbine लगाना भूल गए. So we have to have a checklist, right? कि ये सब चीजें हो रही हैं. Marriage party is a pretty good answer. I've explained this in SDLC thing. Marriage party is a much more complex project than SDLC. Organizing a marriage party, घोड़ी करना है, बाजा करना है, so much we have to do in Indian marriages, right? पहला four step marriages है, lady संगीत है, ये भी है, वो भी है. I'm telling you that's a bigger project. Your parents are extremely good project managers. Trust me on that. Trust me that India has to reinvent itself. India can do a very good job. We are really smart people. The only problem is we don't value our own values. You see? Otherwise, my parents organized the 6 marriages. I mean, they're veterans of project management. They can. Why can't they manage bridges? Yeah. So I'm putting you in the conference, okay? Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Because she's going to be hearing this and she won't see this. So, SDLC perspective is what needs to be done. These guys always talk in terms of something more mathematical, something more manageable. So they name it waterfall, this and that. For example, for planning for Ghodi should be done like this, planning for this thing should be done like this, planning for this should be done like this, planning for Palki should be done like this, then execution should be done like then it should be exited like this. Then we should make notes, what went wrong in this marriage so that next son's marriage can be done right. It all makes common sense. That is a common sense perspective SDLC. What needs to be done? They should plan. It doesn't mean plan cannot change. So anyway, whenever you listen, I'll complete this main keyword. So traceability metrics is that I told you it's for checklist. Key difference for most confusing keyword. What it is not, you should also know. I've seen many people, like for example, I will give a perfect example, auto generation field. Auto. When you place an order with Southwest and you book the ticket, that number that they give you is generated. It is not nowhere in the database before. It is generated according to some algorithm. They make this thing and then they generate this new number and give it to you, right? It is not there. What it is not there in database. It's not a stored data. That is what it is not. With the most confusing thing, I always will talk like this. If I tell you something, let's say this is a pick applet, and pick applet always connects to the dynamic data. Well, what it doesn't connect to is static data. Right? Right? So this keyword, I would say pick applet. There are tons of things you have to know about a pick applet, but pick applet. Don't just a minute. When we get into the functionalities and features of the system, we'll talk about pick applet in detail. Just I'm picking examples so that you can understand this context. But if everybody can get confused, so I'll pick some example from Gmail contact. Let's say when you're creating an email, right? When you're creating an email, then you can pick something from the address book, right? Right? So it is basically connecting to your address book and contacts database and picking it from there and populating it there, right? Similarly in Siebel it's called as pick applet. All that is different thing, but the point is what it doesn't do is it cannot connect to other people are not in your database, basically. So keyword is contacts in your address book. If they are there, then they will.
And in this format, that is a static database. The reservation number is dynamic because it's been created at every
Correct.
transaction.
Correct. And what it is not is it is not stored already. The keyword is it is generated automatically. Example in Siebel. This tutorial was originally just Siebel, but I will give you example in Siebel. For this entire class, I will teach you one system at least. According to me, I've seen so many QA courses, so many BA courses. They don't tell you, show you system. They show you how to make Mercedes. They talk about it. They talk about methodology of making Mercedes. They never talk about parts of Mercedes. They don't know what is Mercedes. They don't even tell you about it. I'm going to only talk about systems. And I'm going to show you one system, Siebel. There are a couple of other systems that we can demonstrate and we'll talk about. Facebook is one very complex system. Then we'll also talk about our examples from Gmail, Hotmail and all. But Siebel is the actual system, the kind of system you'll be working on. Okay? So we'll make sure we understand. Gmail and all those things are engineering systems. Their thing is different. You and I will not work on those. We don't design those because they are not process based. There's a full theory behind it. We'll be working on transactional systems or like systems like claim management systems and things like that. So I'll give you some example in Siebel or some example in claims or something. Personalization. So anything that you do, you need to put it in all these various perspectives. That is the rest I want to say is you need to make sure you understand it from this perspective. I will explain all these perspectives to you. You need to understand it is from this perspective, where does the application data lie? This one, whether it's a personalization, you need to understand everything around what kind of requirement gathering when you do the requirement gathering for, let's say, auto-generated field, what all analysis you need to do. You need to make sure it is compliant or nothing illegal about it. Users decide this thing, you should know too, right? Future requirements, any future requirements are gonna come, then you should know about that. For example, for auto-generated field, let's say there is a future requirement that it should be only numerical because we want our customers to be able to enter it on the keypad. Something like that is on their horizon down the line 5 years. So today the order generation algorithm has to be changed to generate only numeric numbers, keeping future in mind. It is just a small example which kind of demonstrates your job. And sometimes the SME sitting in front of you, it is her job to remember what they are planning to do after 5 years, but actually it becomes your job. You see, it's her job to know all this, but it becomes your job. You need to supposed to counter it. Hey, Lucy, this is not how it's done. Lisa is my favorite username, so I will keep that. Lisa, that's not how you do it. I thought you guys have a plan to have this numeric thing. Yeah. Let me talk to the Vice President Brian and I'll come back to you. That's how. This is a typical discussion between BA and the users. So we'll do these things. I don't want to get into this. I don't want to over-engineer right at this point. But because, see, they have IT. All IT related questions. So good. They will help you in absorbing the context faster, Brian. Okay. Any question, please ask. These are very important things. I have seen some people coming completely confused. I want to clear the confusions first, because so that you can absorb. By the way, what we are doing is, Padmaji, we are understanding various perspectives. We are not getting into the details of these systems, but we are understanding this is systems is one perspective around which we understand any new concept. If I teach you SDLC in detail, you need to think about these systems. So what I've seen is they come again. And let's say when you're learning SDLC, one of the most complex things in SDLC is while requirement gathering is that what kind of real-time and batch integrations will be needed with other systems. Payment system. I gave you example of visas, payment and all that. So the website is for payment processing. It has to talk to payment system. Payment system has to talk to visa system. So the SDLC discussion will never be complete without understanding the system's context a little bit. So I want you to understand various contexts or various perspectives under which you understand any new concept, and then you think in terms of when we again go on the journey, same journey again, go through any SDLC again, you understand it from all the other perspectives as well. You need to think about, okay, this is SDLC, I'm learning about requirement gathering. I can teach you hundreds of things about requirement gathering, but if I tell you the most important thing is what kind of requirements were there, they will ask all these questions, right? My students are getting confused. I want them to be able to clear the interview as well as understanding of the main, the concept, as well as be able to deliver the thing. That's the main thing. So these are various contexts, going over various contexts one by one. So let me just go over one by one again so that you guys complete it. You know this, I'm expecting that. This is something that I was explaining when you guys came. Remember, this business process is a very interesting and important point. That is really the most important point. If you know any business idea, iPhone का marketing ठीक strategy ठीक नहीं है. We have all of us have these ideas. They should have this thing. They should introduce one more color. They should reduce the price. What all processes it will hit is now you have to think. Once you understand what all processes it will hit, you can easily think what all system capabilities we need to have. Look at my verbiage: capabilities, features, functionalities. All that is related to system is one idea. All that is process is one idea. All that is business idea is one idea. These are the three ideas you need to remember. They kind of are a part of your life day in and day out. You either know about systems, or you know about this, or you know about business process. One more thing in passing. When you are clearing the interviews, taking the interviews, what I have observed is a rookie, a beginner, talks only from one perspective and only about one box at a time. He doesn't understand the other box is the interrelationship of the concept. Let's say, oh, what kind of testing? I did white box testing. Okay, oh, really. What kind of business process was it? I changed the perspective. SDLC का testing का आप बात कर रहा है. I changed it to business process. Sorry. Thank you for reminding. Really, thank you. So then, business process. What we did is, as part of the SDLC process, we gathered the requirements and then we tested it. I'm not talking about SDLC process. I'm talking about business process for which you created this system. I keep on telling, you don't know, because they've learned it only from one perspective. They've learned the white box testing only from one perspective. They don't know other things at all. They don't relate it to other things at all. They don't even know. When they were learning, they learned one. So remember, they kind of did not do a thorough job on this context of mind. They just learned the main keyword. They just learned the main concept, but they never related it to other things. SDLC, this, that. They have to relate it to other things too, right? They don't do that. So when they're in front of the interviewer, they can't do it. Now, how much of it is really needed to you do your job? To tell you the truth, about 20%. To clear the interview, 200%. These discussions are really needed to clear the interview. I'm telling you. Otherwise, most of the other things, you will be going there. There will be one process, one system, one main system which you are working on, few peripheral systems. You understand their interrelationship once. We see the current system architecture and the current process. Your job is done. You don't need to really know anything. Rest everything will come as in a box of candy. Really, it will come with the box. You'll be like surprised. Oh man, yeah, it's so easy. Business analyst. That's why many of my students who are beginners, they can easily do their job. Challenge lies in clearing the interview. When they have to articulate one thing in comparison to others. Okay, so we'll do that. I'm going back to this thing. You now understand, Padma, where I'm coming from, what I'm talking about here. Okay, so we just talked about this. We just talked about this business strategies. So you must have heard of. So this thing is not in detail in any of the videos, but this thing is. There is another video for detail. In that I also asked badge of expert, where do you think this guy fits? First of all, from what date to what date he will be needed? He'll be needed from January 30, 2013 to, no, he's not. He's needed, badge of expert is needed at the time of development only. He does create the job, leaves. I want to keep it baseline. Obviously, developers don't leave, they kind of keep working there, but within the context of the project, they actually stop working on that project. They do. This one we discussed. This business process is the missing link between your knowledge of business ideas and the systems. This one is sometimes, Brian sir, मैं आपको एक quickly बता देता हूँ. Let's say you go to work for a state of California. That is end client. There is a preferred vendor always through which we work. Then there is consulting company, which is me. Then this is you. Okay. I explain this thing because my students, when they say, you got a project at Blue Shield of California client. Okay. Client side pe jaake, I'll be gathering requirements from you. They meet with the project manager who's going to read them. Who's their manager, right? Project manager is the first one who they meet. So you are my client. I'm going to gather requirements from you. It kind of confuses them. You don't gather requirements from the client. You see, SME, you gather requirements. That's why I kind of talk about it once at least. Don't Client in English language has 2500 meanings, 25 meanings, and pretty much they're all clients. But here the client is like, because they're client because they hired you, right? They hired you. In this, PM hired you. But when you are sitting and gathering requirement, this girl is your requirement. Lisa is your this thing. Okay, Lisa is your client. SME is your client. Remember that part. That is kind of very important part. He's your client. And in that concept, we don't call him client, because who knows she's also a contractor like you, right? Who knows she's also a contractor? Actually, in all likelihood, she will be also be a contractor. So she's SME in this thing. She's called as SME. I don't know why Google calls it client all the time. I don't know. I know. I will not tell. I will not discuss. Yeah, I know. This is SDLC. We all know. There is going to be a detailed discussion SDLC. I'm going to talk about each and everything. What is organizational change management? Right? I have seen interviews. I don't want you guys to get completely clean home. Some interviewer asks you, so as a BA, organizational change management, what do you do? I want you to say, no, I did not do anything. This company. So that you know, even if you did something, you can articulate perfect. Even if you can't, you should know what she's talking about and say that. Say, don't get confused with something else. Like change control now. Organizational changes. When the software is made, let's say in December 2013, in our context, December 31st, 2013, we are giving the, so 2012, we are giving the software to the users, right? Their whole way of working will change. So they have special change management experts, user experience change management experts for 3-4 months to help them understand. Really at the nitty-gritty level, what she does is, on November 1st, she will send an email, new system is coming guys, please be ready. December 1st, she sends another one, new system is going to be rolled out on December 31st. 15th December, she sends another email, guys, these are going to be cool new features, be ready, it's coming. December 31st, she says, tomorrow is the day. January 1st, here, please for any feedback, contact this number. If you have any problems, contact this number. And if you have any problem in the system, make sure you put DA number, say a single DA number, just call this guy if you have any issues. By January 31st, she starts to taper off, her work starts to reduce, the jobs to connect. On February 15th, she's in that project. She's a change management project. If you guys got a change management project, I will go into details of change management and give you templates of change management so that you can send really good emails to everybody. Okay. So this is what change management is. My organizing change management video talks about that. It gets you familiarized with all the lingo and language that will be apart from the standard things. One of my students calls me, even I can make mistake. What happened? Sarji, what is code move? Code move kya hoga? Code move is in this context, whenever it goes, same testing hua, that same code after test and everything fixing it, the same code has to move to the user, right? So it goes through a special process called as code move. Developers do it. It doesn't hit you at all from doing perspective. From knowing also, you should not know what do they do, how do they do, you don't know. But you should have heard the word once. If you worked in a project, you should have heard the word once. You should have heard the word carburetor if you have been a Mercedes salesman, if you have been a car salesman. If you don't know what is carburetor, never heard of this word, although you never sell it, you never do anything with it, but you must have heard of it once, right? That's how I catch my people in my interviews. We also hire people, right? So I catch them. Just ask, what is code move? What is code freeze? Tell me, what is code freeze? Oh, you did training. I ask them, what is user adoption? What is user adoption? What is user adoption? You have not taken BA training, right? But if someone has taken BA training, has done BA work, user adoption is day in and day out concern of a BA, because the system that is making on January 1st, 2013, users have to start using it. Sometimes what happens, January 15, they stop using it. I don't like it. Out of 1,000 people, 900 people stop using the system. They don't even log in. They said, I'm good with paper and pencil. This system is useless. It can happen, right? I give you a new phone. You say, I don't want to use this new phone. I want to use the old phone. I like that more. It can happen. That happens a lot in the projects. That user adoption is the day in and day out concern of the BA. Senior BAs, PM and BA, they want to make sure that the system gets adopted. Otherwise, it's a fail. Why did they spend $20 million then? If the users are not going to use the system, right? So user adoption is day in and so So there is a question in the interviews also. Hey, how will you ensure that the user adoption is high? And my rookie BA gets clean bold. Clean up cricket, cricket, clean bold. Up cricket, cricket, clean bold. कुछ भी नहीं पता. What is user adoption? Never heard of this word. You see my point? So these are some of the things I've identified as lacking in any kind of this thing, and I'm going to talk about 20 types of requirements, 10 types of this, that. Nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody does. We are talking about only BRFR, business requirement, function requirement. That's it. If at max, non-function, visibility requirements. That's it. That's good. These three things can easily help you conceive a complete system. That's why always people ask about these things, and that's why we need to worry about these things. I tried to Google business analyst techniques. I found 150 items in the Google, which I, as a 15-year veteran of business analysis, has no idea about. How much information is there on Google can be astounding. It is so much that anybody can spend his lifetime and never be able to do even a single day of work. Okay, so don't worry about that. Let's keep going. RUP. You don't know this thing, that's fine. We'll discuss in detail in SDLC discussions, but here it is SDLC, just this, this thing. I'm not going to talk too much in detail about it anyway, right? Whenever you're understanding any concept, you should understand it SDLC perspective also. That's the whole point. This is systems context. So now everybody is fresh in this, okay? We kind of covered some of the things.